thank you so much for joining us. Feel free, if you want to turn on your cameras and interact. That's a very good space to build bridges and find new friends and connections. So let me just organize here. Okay. All right, so this is a truly exciting week. It's Planetary Health Week, and we have been waiting for this for more than a year and a half. So I'm super excited to have this event today and the whole, not only the side event, but the whole program. As a Brazilian, I've been also supporting the programming committee for all these years with the University of São Paulo in partnership with the Planetary Health Alliance. And we are so proud to be one of the sponsors of this event. Today is also special because we want to talk about a theme that we're so passionate about. And we have a whole team very enthusiastic here with us today. And I'm so thankful also for our team for helping us to build this beautiful week. And probably we don't want to do just beautiful events, but of course we want to real transformation on the ground. So welcome to the session, A Planetary Health Blind Spot, revealing the potential of women and the global South to safeguard nature. I'm Nicole de Paula. I'm the founder of the Women Leaders for Planetary Health. And as I mentioned, also one of the organizers of this conference. And it's truly exciting to see the growth of the community of planetary health. I remember when I went for the first time in 2017 to the first Planetary Health annual meeting. And it was interesting. It was a little bit of a lonely experience because it was very biomedical at that point. I'm a political scientist. I work with international relations. So I felt a little bit isolated at that point. But it's so fantastic to see the evolution of the community, of the disciplines, and of the actions that we're seeing happening around the world. As I mentioned, we have more than 4,000 participants on this one. And we're reaching more than 120 countries. And that's something that we have been also advocating to really expand to the global South. And so despite this massive growth, we still see a little bit of a gap. And then that's what the topic, the conversation we're going to have it today, right? Is this the role of gender equality as an accelerator for planetary health action and the implementation of the SDGs as well, the UN Sustainable Development Goals. And of course, the role of low and middle income countries, what we call global South, the term is also something that there's a lot of discussion there. But I think we understand that the part of the world that suffers mostly with inequality and vulnerability of all this planetary health, planetary emergency. So for us, I think what is really important to talk about women and a global South, it's an issue of transparency, it's an issue of legitimacy, and it's an issue of effectiveness. So many policies out there, and we know that is, as we said at the beginning, we're not only looking for more knowledge, we're looking for wisdom. And we are definitely needed to, I think, engaging more women and placing women in positions of leadership. It's really a part of wisdom that we can offer. And today, what are we going to do is really have a discussion with our team, some of the topics that we find specifically important. But I just want to also give you a background. I see many friends in the room as well. So I think you have been following our activity a little bit. For those who are not so familiar, I just want to say that Women Leaders for Planetary Health is a social enterprise based in Germany. But as I said, we're very much focusing on having an impact in the global South. And we were created before the pandemic. So we didn't need a pandemic to value the role of women and of planetary health. This was an insight and concretely happening at the UN Climate Summit in Madrid, the COP25, where we could circulate around the world, right? I think it's after 1.5 years, we're in a very different planet. And our mission is even more important to achieve, right? We're seeing how the pandemic has particularly affected women in a very disproportionate way. And I think our colleagues will also mention about that. But it was interesting for me. I just want to also share a personal story a little bit. In my journey with the planetary health community, I was seeing how this political and the implementation gap seemed to be there. And these issues of power, inequities, and social science, really. I see now they're growing, but at the beginning, I really felt there was a gap there. And going to a meeting, I was in a meeting in Africa, and it was about leadership of women and global health. And that moment, I really had this kind of aha moment that doesn't happen very often. But when you see people, they were still with the lenses of a so biomedical and not thinking about how the health of this individual that's really connected to the social and environmental determinants of health, what is happening around us, which is really the conversation we are having with this planetary health community. And then I really thought, well, we need more women for planetary health. And that's a little bit of a story that we had to create this. But of course, I could not have done this alone. And we had this amazing team that we're going to meet today. They're so committed and so passionate about the topic. And that's, I think we're all here because we want to do something bigger than ourselves, right? Nobody's making millions with this project. It's a very hard area. We still see a lot of potential people, at least my personal experience, a topic that remains very much neglected. So our mission is very simple. We want to bridge the gaps between environment and health, these policies, but through gender just solutions. And how we decided to do this is really, there are three things. We want to spread our knowledge, improve the research on these links, right? Because we know, okay, women are disproportionately impacted, but how exactly? How is this happening? And you can see here, there's just an illustration of our slides. So spread our knowledge. We are building this digital platform that we want to give voice to as much people as we can on these issues. But those who are really interested in these connections between health, environment, and gender. And usually, if you go talking to, let's say, a ministry in the government or funders, they say, oh, that's too much, right? But we really need to pay attention to this cross-secting sections. And of course, we want to empower more women in the Global South. And today we're going to have a conversation with some of our members of our community who joined us in a very competitive selective process. So I'm so proud to have them here as well. And we are here to connect and learn. Perhaps you also have initiatives and you would like to see how we can connect and join forces. That's really our main mission here. So if we go back, Leo, there was one slide before this one, just a quick introduction. It's just, there was this article last week saying that burned out people will keep burning up the planet, right? So there's a lot of connections here. These are some numbers of all the planetary health emergency that we see, right? The wildfires displacing more than 3 billion animals in Australia, we saw in 2020. Is the warmest years. I'm speaking from Berlin today, and I'm learning that April now is one of the coldest years this year. So it's kind of, we know that the climate and our environment are really degrading a very accelerated pace. But the question is, what do we do about it? How do we change the mindsets, and how do we involve people right into this transformation, specifically women? So just a little bit on the logistics. We're going to have then quick inputs from our team to detail a little bit more about these gaps. And then we're going to move to a conversation, an interview with some of our mentees from our program last year. And we are so happy to have this networking lounge. We're gonna, hopefully you can stay for this breakout groups. That's the moment we can meet each other and make new connections. And hopefully we end with a very open conversation in plenary here. So I would like now to invite Sophie Gap to continue this conversation. Thank you, Sophie, the floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you very much. Let me just shortly present myself. I'm Sophie Gap. I'm an associate at Women Leaders for Planetary Health. And my background is that I'm a medical student with an MSc in public health. And I'm currently doing my doctoral thesis in the area of climate change and health. So let's take a step back. Why do we actually need to talk about women and the Global South in planetary health? Why does gender and the Global South matter in planetary health? Both of these groups are among the hardest hit when it comes to the environmental impacts on health. However, while they represent large parts of the population on this planet, they still remain underrepresented in decision-making spaces. So while there's no good assessment of the planetary health space yet in terms of numbers, because it's a very young space, we do have good numbers on this in the context of health and in the area of climate and environmental policy, which both have overlaps with planetary health and share actors and dynamics. Global Health 50/50 assesses this every year and sheds a light on the global health space. And here you can see their numbers from this year, and they're quite astonishing. So there's a 70, 80, 90 gap. 70% of leaders of 200 global health institutions they assessed were male. 84% hail from high-income countries, and 94% attend their highest education in high-income countries. So we can see that there's not only a glass ceiling, but there's also a glass border. And they titled their report this year, Flying Blind in a Time of Crisis. And I think if we consider planetary health and the many challenges we have ahead, we can see that we risk flying blind in these challenges again. When we go to the next slide, we see that it's not only who is holding the positions of power, but it's also where these organizations that are active in the space and working in the space are based. So we see that most of the organizations are based in the global north. And this affects also their perspective on the world and the problems and the challenges. So in conclusion, we can see there's an uneven distribution of power, and many of these power dynamics are in play in planetary health as well. We have to ask ourselves, who is represented? Who takes decisions? Whose perspective is taken into account? Are policies effective if they don't include the needs and the perspective of many in the population? And why are we missing out on the potential of so many people? Laura will now proceed to have a closer look at the climate policy space and elaborate why this matters.
Yes, thank you, Sophie. Hi, everyone. I'm Laura Jung. I, similar to Sophie, have a background in medicine and public health and usually work with the German Climate Change and Health Alliance. Sophie gave a good introduction on what the situation is in the global health space. And we're talking about global health just because for planetary health, since it's a relatively new field, we don't even have those insights yet. However, there is no reason to assume that it's any different. So since the planetary health data we don't have, we are now going to look at the climate data directly. And we picked the representation in climate politics at the biggest global climate conference, which is the COP. And if you look at the UNFCCC delegations, what you can see is that women are underrepresented. Despite an improvement over the last years, equal representation is still not achieved. And you can see in the first graphic that I put there that between 2009 and 2019, the improvement was there, but relatively small. And in 2019, so this is COP25, the last COP that we've had, because last year, as you know, it was canceled. We see that we have 39% of the delegates have been women. But then if we look even at the regional spread of those, and this is going to be very important for us, and we go in more detail on this later, we see that there are differences between the regions, and there is some regions where women are even more underrepresented. And all this, even so, countries actually have agreed to address gender equality in the Gender Action Plan under the Lima Working Program. So there is a focus on gender. It's just that the improvement is going very slowly. So obviously, we had very high hopes for this year's COP26. And on the next slide, what you can actually see is we are not yet sure where it goes. We were all hoping for this more feminist climate leadership, and COP26 seemed to disappoint us. There has been an initiative called She Changes Climate that was tackling the COP26 leadership team, because already in this team where the framing, the narrative, the issues and the content for the COP26 will be decided, so where the agenda setting is happening, women have been underrepresented. it is very clear that we need a change in focus, away from the patriarchal leadership style that brought us where we are today towards a more feminist, anti-racist leadership approach. What we are here to say is that we need to distribute power instead of concentrate it, and that we need to empower women to move forward. And on the next slide, what you can see is, why does that even matter? Talking about representation, this is also clear to us. It's not everything, but it's a part of it. Women have different experiences, various challenges in life, for example, related to social norms within the society. And this then translates into differences in policy preferences between men and women. So what that means is female participation in decision-making actually can change policy priorities. And what we have seen is that communities do better in resilience and capacity building strategies, for example, when women are also involved in the planning. So in the past, climate change has often been framed as a more technical issue, but it's not. It's a societal issue. And that is why we need to include the whole society to work towards solutions. And now I hand over to my colleague Melvin Otieno, who's actually going to give us an example on why this is so important. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Laura. I'm Melvin Otieno from Eldoret, Kenya. I'm also an associate team member of Women Leaders for Planetary Health, and also a founder of Planetary Health Eastern African Hub. My background is in environmental health, and based on what my colleague Laura has mentioned, or why representation matter in issues of climate change, I would like to bring you a concrete example as part of our work for Women Leaders for Planetary Health. It offers a platform to elevate the voices of the vulnerable women from Global South affected with natural disasters due to climate change. So in this case, I present to you a case scenario through my recent published blog post on flooding, a gender-sensitive disaster in the Winam Gulf of Lake Victoria. It happened during my field research work in the Lake Victoria region. I found out that women, girls, and children are affected immensely by flooding. And we find out that women are mostly in charge of the households and involved in children's affairs, and also have been immensely affected and rendered homeless due to this crisis. At the same time, they have lost their jobs, and also they don't have enough food to offer their families. So there are also risks that came up with this among the children. And they have, for example, children have to wade through water to go to school without protective shoes and even proper gear for swimming. So in this case, you find out that they also face with health risk related in the presence of water, and also other waterborne and vector-borne diseases come out of this. And we realized that through my statistics, I realized that women are not involved in decision-making forums where their priorities could be established. So these interests are poorly represented, and you find out that poverty is also seen as a significant driving factor behind women's social burdens, since their participation in productive work during flooding disasters have increased, and also due to low income status in terms of economy. So in other words, there is urgent need to increase women's involvement in disaster risk reduction programs, such as flooding, which is a gender sensitive issue. So from here, I will leave it to my fellow colleague, Omia, who will take you through what our work entails in details. And thanks for listening.
Yes, hello everyone. I'm Omnia. I'm from Cairo, Egypt. My background is medicine. I'm a young medical doctor from Cairo. And I'm very happy to share with you what we have done to address the challenges that were demonstrated by my amazing family of women leaders. So First of all, what I wanted to share is that for us to really bring our call to actions at the table, we drafted a commentary that was published in the Lancet Planetary Health, where we really demonstrated the challenges faced by women, especially in the planetary health space. And at the same time, we were able to voice our call to actions at the planetary health community to really empower women, especially from the low middle income countries, to be the transformative agents that the planetary health space needs in order to make our health, as well as the health of the environment and human rights, placed at the heart of all the policy frameworks that are being developed. And at the same time, we were also calling on equal representation of women from both high income and low middle income countries to really disrupt the outdated systemic biases that we are seeing that are hindering women's leadership, especially in the climate and the planetary health space. And finally, we were able to showcase our efforts that really aim to equip young female professionals with the skills, with the knowledge, with the competencies that they need to really and meaningfully contribute to the planetary health space. So for us to do that, in the next slide, you can see that we have our, we created a platform for our leaders to really contribute and share their efforts and their advocacy, as Melvin mentioned, and there are so many amazing and inspiring blog posts that are shared on our website that really addresses planetary health from diverse backgrounds, either from a law perspective or from political perspective, as well as the efforts that are done by women leaders around the world. And at the same time, we had our first annual summit where we invited global health experts to really demonstrate and show the role of women in the planetary health agenda. We also had very inspiring leaders such as the Secretariat of the UNCPD, Elizabeth Merima, as well as the Secretariat of the UNEP, which is the United Nations Environment Program, come and give our community inspiring talks, which were called our coffee breaks. And these are just examples, but we also have our mentorship program, which I'm going to leave the floor to Nicole to share with you.
Hi, Omnia, and great job, everyone. This is so empowering, and I'm always so surprised, not surprised because I know you're all amazing, but I always get more energy and gives me the reason why we work together and why we're doing this, because it is really something bigger than ourselves. I think we all had a story to share, the moment that we said, wait a minute, there's something wrong here. And we're talking really also a lot about this social norms, right? And culture. So it's not definitely not a technical aspect only. I heard many powerful statements, and we need to distribute power. So it's not only because we want to empower women, but when you distribute power, really lifting the whole society. So it's really a collective effort. And if we just go to the next slide, I think the idea here is everybody's talking about how do we accelerate this green recovery? Is it really happening? And of course, the point here is that there's no green recovery if it's not a just recovery. And empowering women is really at the core of these efforts. If we move to the next slide, and I liked that also Laura was mentioning this initiative, She Changed Climate. So here, of course, we have a short time together, but it's nice to share all of these initiatives that we are doing, because it's not one organization that can change the world. And She Changed Climate, I'm one of the members of the steering committee, and it was just an effort that started with, a woman kind of not accepting the situation, and we got together as a very powerful, energetic group. That this campaign, She Changed Climate, I would encourage you, if you take a look, see it's growing, the message is there, and what we want is not just to create another organization to take space from other organizations, and no, it's really like give even more voice for those who have been advocating in this space for so long. And we have letters that was signed by more than 400 female, very high profile leaders around the world. But we need to be realistic, and still we cannot say that this campaign was so successful. It was successful in terms of raising awareness, but where are the women? We still see presidency at the COP26 in a country like the UK, who were not necessarily leading by example on this specific topic. So that's something that I really also would like to share with you. If we go to the next slide, the beginning, of course, what we really want to talk about, and I'm sharing this because it's a policy brief that I wrote for the International Institute for Advanced Sustainability, for Sustainable Development, ISD, and with the support of Canada, Norway, and Sweden. It's just this idea of how exactly, you can just Google that and also find the whole policy brief, how gender equality is really this accelerator for effective implementation of the SDGs and other policies. So I just want to give, again, one of the, everybody, I think we are convinced that we do have a problem, right, of gender and in society in general. But just to give you some numbers, how the United Nations is showing us that in more than 155 countries, at least one law exists that impedes women's economic opportunities. So what for me, the importance here is like, it's a lot of countries, right? Sometimes we tend to think, oh, maybe it's just, you know, some forgotten place that not even important for the global economy, but that's a lot of countries when you see this type of disparities. The gender pay gap cost the global economy $160 trillion. And that's what we're talking about. It costs all of us, and it's not costing only women. And we see another example here, around only almost 24% of all national parliamentarians are women. So this issue of decision making and representation, we seem to be still very far. Of course, things are improving, but we just cannot relax. That's not the moment to relax now, specifically with this pandemic that we are facing and moving forward. If we don't take to this issue very seriously, I don't think we're going to have the chance to. I mean, I don't know if you want to build back. I think we want to reset and really try to imagine an economy that works for everybody. So 1 in 3 women experience some form of physical and sexual violence in their lifetimes. And I find, and while I was doing this research, finding that there are some numbers that are showing how the cost of domestic violence, it's around the size of the Canadian economy. It's $1.5 trillion. So these things to me are very impressive. So if you move to the next slide, the other one, I think. Please, thank you. It's really also in this policy brief, I'm just going to provide again another highlights here, but what we're trying to say is, okay, how do we move forward, right? And it's not a simple, and they're not one solution, but the beginning of the solution here is that, of course, we need to ensure women's access and control over land and productive resources. For example, if we're going to have climate change project policy or on smart agriculture, or and if you see women excluded or not having the rights to own land, I don't know what kind of solution, and we're not really helping this, but we're just with this blind spot in this type of measurements. So another recommendation here is that support non-governmental organizations, social enterprise, and networks that fosters gender equality in the context of environmental conservation, climate action, health promotion. And of course, that's really what we're trying to do. And I can say it's not an easy thing, because the mission is very big. And what do we see? People continue to separate these things. Oh no, I do climate, you do gender, or I do health. And that's exactly what we are against. We really want to bring these agendas together, bring these communities together, that they remain a little bit separate. And we still see, I think the pandemic really gives an opportunity to break the silos. And that's why we're excited to have at least this group working to continue moving this agenda forward. And of course, funders would have to pay more attention and fund women-led organizations. Of how much of, I don't think we have a shortage of money out there. We just have a very poor distribution of resources. And that's remained very important. And I experience myself every day. We see how you have funding there. You have 10 leading male scientists, for example, getting all this pot, and while the issues of gender diversity remains overlooked. When we talk about environmental policies, and of course we advocate to have these policies that are gender responsive. I think we do have all these planning, as Laura mentioned a little bit in this sphere of climate change. They all have their action plans, but we need now to, we're trying to, how do we combine these issues? And I think the issue of health and human health, it's a very important one, and specifically on reproductive and sexual health as well of women. And to do all this, there is still, any study that you go there, if you dig a little bit, we have one recommendation, and it becomes a little bit boring to share this one, but I will, because we still need to improve the quality of gender-specific data. Recognizing this range of gender-based differences during the COVID-19 pandemic to ensure this response reach really these girls and women around the world. And I think also we have many examples that we are showing why that is needed. Do we have a next slide? Okay, so with that in mind, I'm just pleased to have today, because we know the problem. There are many problems out there, but we are not interested in repeating all this very depressing data. What we're trying to do is to, okay, what can we do? What needs, and we don't need to transform the whole world at once. We need to start maybe small and maybe disseminating and creating a wave of force for good. And I'm so pleased to have with us 4 guests. I think we have Koni again with us, Stuti Chakraborty. I apologize if I'm not pronouncing properly, and Virginia Solis and Beatriz Fernandez. And what we wanted to do today is, I see many cameras here, but can I maybe ask you to, if you could just turn off your cameras for this session. And I think if you go to a view on the gallery, you see all of us in this conversation for just 20 minutes, because I really like to see you all. So it's just easy for me to see our speakers here. So I want to maybe here understand, so last year we launched a mentorship program, and we were surprised to get 150 applications. So we were, as I said, we were an organization that we were creating at the end of 2019. And when 1 year, all of a sudden, we were like 60 people involved between mentees, mentors, the team, advisors. And of course, personally, it was very empowering for me to see, okay, I think that's really an area that we need to do more, and people want to do more. So we did a 5 months mentorship program. That was a 101 guidance there. Each person, we selected 23 people after this 150 applications. And they were all paired with one mentor. And we have together monthly a session. That is our digital academy, and there were many topics there. So today, what we did we're going to have time to talk with those who attended this program, and please feel very free. It's not only, oh, this was amazing, but we want to hear your experience, right? How the power of mentors. And before we go to this conversation, I think we will share a video. If that's okay now, with one of our mentors is Professor Teddy Potter, who is also a very engaged member of our Planetary Health Alliance. He's a professor here and a very enthusiastic mentor. And I just wanted to share a 3-minute video with you all, some of her visions of why she was a mentor and why it mattered for her. So if that's okay, I think we're going to play this video now. Let's see if it works.
Hi, my name is Teddy Potter, and I'm a clinical professor in the School of Nursing at the University of Minnesota. It is also my honor to be director of Planetary Health for the school. Mentorship is one of the ingredients of a healthy community, and as a nurse, healthy communities are very important to me. It's a relationship that says, I see you, and I believe in all that you can become. Mentoring is different than coaching, different than advising, and different than being a friend. Coaching helps people fill a preconceived role. Advising helps people successfully navigate the rules of a system. Friends accept people for where they've been and who they are, yet it rarely looks at where they're going. Mentoring, on the other hand, is futures-oriented and involves deep listening and asking questions that prompt the person to discern their path or calling. Where advising and coaching are about shaping thinking and behaviors, and friendship is about the heart, mentoring is about the core of who a person is, dare I say their soul. It's about walking with someone as they begin to see who they are, what they can be, and the work they can do in this world. What I learned from being a mentor in the Women's Leaders for Planetary Health initiative is that basically I can retire. Seriously, it was wonderful to meet and engage the next generation of women leaders. The future is in very, very good hands. We are in an urgent situation. We cannot waste time repeating the same false starts or making the same mistakes. We need to learn, then quickly pass on what we've learned to others. We also need to be actively recruiting a deep bench of planetary health scientists, educators, activists, and practitioners. Mentoring is the best way to ensure engagement over time and development and inclusion of all people, all ideas, and all disciplines. Most importantly, mentoring allows each individual to celebrate their unique contributions that they can make to the health of the planet. Thank you.
Wow. Maybe I think we'll stop for a second and the screen sharing, and then we'll go back to this conversation here. And there are so many powerful statements there, right? I see you all froze for me for a second. So are you listening? Are you with me? Okay, and I get the message, my connection is unstable, of course. So I hope to be not unstable for too long, but we have this conversation now, and I really would like to invite a round of very informal insights, because when we started, we said, okay, how can we help? And we want to understand how the mentorship really helped for you. We all had different mentors, so Teddy's fantastic, and but you also had different experiences. So like maybe to start, why being a mentee was important to you in this time. So maybe I see Beatrice, if you don't mind sharing a little bit. And just 1 second, are we sharing the screen, or should we just go back to non-sharing, or it's just me? Yeah. Okay, Leah, are you sharing your screen? Maybe could we stop sharing for 1 second here, just for the session, and then we go back. Yeah, so, I see more people now. Good. Thank you so much, Leah. All right, so Beatrice, I think you also had, we spent all 5 months, 6 months together, and now more, because we continue. It's never ending. I think I like to say, when people went to Women Leaders for Planetary Health, they started with all 3 months. That was the agreement. It's been more than a year, so it's hard to leave, and I hope this continues. So Beatrice, I'm so curious, how was it for you? What did you learn? And being you're all very accomplished professionals, so we were never teaching, we're really exchanging. So share with us your experience, please. Thank you.
Yeah, sure. Thank you. And hello, everyone. I'm Beatrice. I'm from Mexico, and I am a sustainability professional with experience on climate change and resource efficiency and things around environmental sustainability. And you may think that planetary health was very natural, but it was not for me until I joined this wonderful mentoring program, because it really helped me understand the relation that we have with nature and our health and our well-being, how we are so connected, from pollution to access to water, drinking water, to how women are positioned in global conversations in health spaces. So for me, it was a very unique opportunity to broaden my understanding and my knowledge on how the environment and our lives sit in harmony with nature and our health. And contrary to other mentoring programs that exist around the world, I think the uniqueness and the value that this program gave to me was the opportunity to connect with more than 20 women around the world that are doing fantastic work around planetary health, learning from the legal side of things, from the health side. So it was such a variety of experience that I got to learn from many different people. And the fact that we all came together with a women perspective. And I think that's very important today in this global conversation, because Nicole started today's summit saying, women need to have a seat at the table. And there are many movements right now, as you know, She Changes Climate is one of them. Because women, we're not against men. Feminism is not against men. We want a seat at the table because we bring a different perspective to that table, because we bring a different way of solving problems, of innovating, of finding new ways to connect with people. Because as a woman, as women, we bring that perspective. And I think the fact that with this program, we came together with a women's perspective, how we do this, how do we navigate through these spaces. And it has not been easy for everyone, and I think for anybody. It has come with all its challenges, but also its rewards. So learning from that, for me, was the most enriching experience. And as Teddy was saying in the video, I think the future is in really good hands. I'm very hopeful for all this new generation, my generation and younger generation that are coming up with these innovations, with these ideas, with this appetite to be part of something global for everyone. And I think this mentoring program was really a good springboard for all of us to start that conversation and that action. And so I'm very grateful to Nicole and all her team that set up this amazing idea of how do we connect all these women around the world. And yeah, I'm really looking forward to continuing collaborating one way or another. And I'll pause there to allow other people also to give their inputs.
Thank you, Beatrice. And it is so, I mean, for me, it's personally so rewarding to see, because you already had amazing work before joining us. So it's just like connecting you all and bringing these forces together is really a gift. And Teddy Potter said in the video that she can't retire. That's not true, because let's clarify, she cannot retire at the moment. Nobody can. And now it's the time we need to unite. So I just wanted to also invite Stuti to share a little bit, because we had this dimension of the mentors, but we also had this learning curve. And there's so much to learn, because it's, well, we just need to learn about the whole planet, all the dimensions, everything together. Of course, it's not easy. And I think we have lots to improve there, and we're working to see, okay, how we can even make this easier for everybody. But we did have sessions of our digital academy, and it was different topics. So maybe Stuti, you want to also share, how did you perceive that, and explain a little bit what we did with this monthly sessions, because it's this collective and individual work that I thought it was a nice combination, in my opinion. Stuti, welcome.
Hello. Thank you, Nicole, and thank you for giving me this opportunity to speak today. Hello, everyone. I'm Stuti Chakrabarti, and I'm currently working in the southern part of India as a rehabilitation professional. I just got done with my undergraduate degree last year, and so being a young healthcare professional venturing into the field of healthcare in the middle of a pandemic, as you might all be aware, India is dealing with a very humanitarian crisis situation at the moment, and there are parts of it that have also been contributed to because of the ongoing climate crisis that we're having. But having said that, it was truly an amazing opportunity for me to share the platform with such amazing women change makers in the field of planetary health. And as Nicole mentioned, for me personally, one of the most unique experiences of this digital mentorship program was the Digital Academy, which was done. So we had monthly sessions throughout the course of the program that we had, apart from also just connecting with our own individual mentors. We had some of the most leading professionals, leaders, and change makers, as well as path followers in the field of planetary health come on board and give us inputs and insights, as well as encouragement in terms of how we could envision and lead transformatively towards a sustainable future in planetary health, especially as a woman belonging to a low and middle income country. It was extremely useful for me just to, understand how to navigate through these different opportunities. So we had sessions ranging from the basic skills, which I feel were not just important for me starting out as a young healthcare professional in planetary health, but also in general in terms of going ahead in my professional life and career. We had sessions on mentorship, networking. We had sessions on understanding how to write grants, because some of us might be into research, and for me it was very useful specifically because some of the aspects of my work focuses on how planetary health or climate crisis is impacting people's brains and also contributing to lifelong disabling conditions and neurodegenerative disorders as part of the research that I'm doing. So writing grants was an extremely useful session that I found. And we also had sessions on leadership. We had sessions on advocacy and how to utilize our advocacy skills. And one of the most, I think, important things from these sessions were that they were not just lectures that people came on board or leaders came on board to give us. It was not a one-way passive learning opportunity, but it was actually an active involvement where we were divided or segregated into breakout rooms, and we had the opportunity to brainstorm amongst the mentees, as well as receive feedback based on our discussions and our thoughts and ideas from leaders in the field. So I think that was something that was extremely helpful. And also we had more general sessions talking with leaders talking to us about planetary health, because the concept, I feel, is still a lot abstract. People do not have an understanding of it, especially in the global south. And I think that's one of the reasons why there's a lack of awareness and lack of leadership and lack of accountability. And this has led to a significant shortage, as was highlighted by the panelists before me. And so I think raising awareness and just making people more aware of the crisis and why it is important to stand up and speak up is extremely crucial. So I would like to thank Women Leaders for Planetary Health for providing all of us with this opportunity. And thank you all also for joining us today.
Thank you, Stuti, so much for this comprehensive sharing. And I like what you said, is lack of accountability. And then it's, it's very important to raise awareness. We're trying to make an impact where we need it the most, right? We don't want to continue talking to the same clubs and the same groups who are already convinced. We want to spread the message. And for that, we need to go to the whole world. And, we see now research shows there is this huge gap in low and middle income countries. So maybe I go now to Latin America and Argentina and invite Virginia to share then because Virginia also had a different, what is important for and was interesting in the program is that we all had so different backgrounds. We heard today many people working in the public health sector, but Virginia, you do something different. And I really like also what you do. So share with us how it was the experience for something in a different background.
So first, hi everyone, and thank you, Nicole, and all the team for such an amazing event and for all this time that we have shared together. So I'm from Argentina, and I'm on the crazy mission that we are of creating an environmental and social positive income. And for doing this, I come from a business background. So I have a startup that is currently working with the small and medium scale producers that produce yerba mate, that is a traditional drink here in Argentina, and selling the product in the US. So the startup is based in the US. And I also come from a family working in agriculture, so I was always related with the planet, the earth, and nature. But for me, like the big challenge was how to keep learning. For like I was hearing Beatrice and I was feeling the same thing. Like for me, planetary health was something that was super important in the core, but at the same time, I knew that I didn't have a lot of experience and I didn't have a lot of knowledge. So for me, the program was like a very specific invitation to learn more and to learn more from others. So when I started the program, like for me, one of the things, and hearing all the academic knowledge that all of the mentees had, was how to build and to learn to build this collaborative work between the two different like talents or gifts that we all have. That is the academic work and the business or more like a practical work. And because I really believe that to create a change and to change the world today, we need to work together. So so this was one of the conversations that I was always having with all here, like the team, and also with my mentor, is like how we can create this create this bridge and work together to change the world together. So for me, like all this program was really like a learning path, like learning from others, like even in every like digital academy session, but also from Nicole, from my colleagues and the mentor. And also like in this path, I realized that in order to grow and in order to build bridges, we need to be willing to open our hearts, right? And open our lives. And this is something that I really discovered, that every session, every meeting was an opportunity to open myself, my life, listening from others, and be willing to walk from that session being someone different, like someone better. So I do believe this is a two-way relationship, like what we give, we need to be willing to receive, and that we can create and change the world together if we are willing to do it from our positions. So thank you.
Thank you, Virginia. That was truly inspiring also. And it's not easy to open ourselves, right? To go there and put yourself in a position of vulnerability. And now we have more and more research showing how essential that is. It became a little bit fashionable even, but it's not easy to do, right? And but it's nice to try because you immediately gain some benefits from this, right? And that was, and I struggle myself, so it's quite interesting to hear that you had this experience as well. And maybe also why is, and we were allowing Argentina, I want to go to the other side of the world, and then it's a good night, it's good morning, good night, good afternoon. And I would like to hear, Koenig, and also your experience, because see, we have so many different backgrounds, different regions, and that's the richness of the program for me. You know, I always love to be surrounded by so many different people and things. So Koenig, share with us your experience as well.
Yeah, always like speaking from the future, right? So I'm like almost Wednesday right now. So over 6 or 7 years for my role as a sustainability coordinator at the Health Promoting Hospital Network. So I work with hospitals around the world, governments and all the NGOs and research to actually help healthcare move from sick care to healthcare. And how can we build healthy, balanced relationship between profit, people, and planet. So over the past few years, and before I started my PhD, I was like very, very blur and foggy. I can't see my way. I know that is our ultimate goal, to make people healthier, that we have to have a very healthy environment, but I doesn't know how and what is the tools that I need. So I started my PhD, and I always like looking for a tribe. So this network came to me. I was like, okay, these people will not be crazy talking about planetary health, and you know, we can go very geeky talking about climate change and health. So I was so excited with this opportunity. Then it got very challenged because all the digital academic session was my wee hours, you know, between 12 a.m. and 2 or sometimes 3 a.m. the worst part is I can't sleep after the sessions because I got so excited. And there's like so many things to reflect and to think. And I was like, okay, my God, I sometimes can't sleep for 2 nights. I say, this is getting me too excited. So the whole journey, for me, the knowledge and the research, something is not new. It's not new for me because I'm doing research in this area, but it's the revisit and different people doing different presentations, and they put in different perspective. It's like, oh, you make that knowledge sound so different, and it's like twisting my brain around. Like we get more creative and innovative. So that's like a very beautiful part for me in this learning journey. For me and my mentor, because my mentor is Dr. Monica Lee, and she's a Chinese citizen, and she is a very critical person. So all our conversations, she's like, why are you thinking like this? Like, why do you think like this? Why? And so it's like, first, like sometimes we got into very heated debate. I was like, no, I just want to let you know about this. But she's like super nice person, and she's a risk expert. So she always tells me at the end of our conversations, like, you can go further. So put yourself a bit vulnerable spot and you will progress further. So don't worry, like you can go. So if you fail, don't worry, I'll be back here, like get you dusted and you're ready to go. So it's very interesting because I allow myself to be a little bit more vulnerable. Then we can make progress, relations by relations, people, person by person. So this is how we can make change. It's not one fact or one slide or one sessions that we can turn the world around, but it's just those little things that we build trust and we build familiarity, and we gather all the collective voices that amplify and make this change possible. So I guess from my journey, I value those sessions that I can sit down and reflect 1 to 2 hours with my mentor, and all the academy sessions. It's a lot of conversation with myself, especially, and also with my colleagues and friends and all these amazing people that doesn't think planetary health is like a crazy thing. And it's very different because in today's world, we communicate through a bunch of memes or tweets, but the real growth and understanding doesn't actually happen through those things. We need to sit down and have deep, uncomfortable conversations with yourself and with your peers, and you expand your circle of influence, because power relies on people, and we need all these people to be on the same side to pull and make these changes. So that's what's my learning and reflections these past few months.
Wow, this is also very inspiring, Connie. And I always felt guilty in my accounts because I knew the people from the other side of it was so late. But there's one thing that we cannot solve, is how to reach the whole world and find a good time zone. That doesn't exist. That's something I now
No. But I guess this thing always transcend across time zones, so it's okay.
Yeah, and what I was always energized is to see how people are waking up so early or going to bed so late. And of course, the idea is we get this energy, and of course we want to think, because talking about our values, and yesterday was the first day of the conference, and you saw a few attended how we started not talking about finance or politics or technical issues. We're talking about shared values, because this transformation will require a very, very introspection, I think, right? This moment to see who we are, who we want to be, as you were saying also, Connie, and this creativity. So I think what we're selling is not more knowledge, because you're all so knowledgeable, as you can see. I mean, these people, they're very smart. So I always felt, okay, I learn every day with you all. But it's what we want to do is to empower you to think that you can do whatever you want. I had a journalist once asking me, what do you want them to do when this program finishes? And I'm like, I don't want them to do anything. They do whatever they want, but they need to believe that they can do that. And that's, I think, what we are selling, is just this empowerment and this confidence to really make a change. And I think achieved this in so many of you, and I'm so proud of that, and so thankful for you also trusting us to do this process. And we have this conversation was so interesting, and I thought we would do 4 more questions, but perhaps what it's time to now do this networking lounge and then move to this breakout rooms, because I think we all want to meet each other and share what did you think about this conversation so far. And I have one question for all of us. I think we're going to meet for 15 minutes together and say, what can we as Planetary Health community and the women leaders do to empower more women in the Global South? And do you have any success stories, or what do you think it's missing? And so it's really an opportunity to exchange. And after that, this smaller conversations, we're going to go in plenary and see if you want to report back your findings. I'll be very glad to hear your views. So I think we're going to do the breakouts. Yes. Okay. So I'll see you. Please don't go anywhere. Stay with us, and I'll see you in 15 minutes. I think it's a good time to, if you can, turn on your camera. It's good to see everyone back. Some people are dancing between the rooms, so it's good because you could see even more people. So that's the goal here. And the idea is to have an open conversation, really do a little bit of a consultation as well. How are you, if you think that you also can support this, or report a little bit more the main key ideas. So if you would like to speak, if you want to raise, you can wave if I can see your camera, or perhaps you can also raise your hands with the function here. So is anyone wants to share some highlights of this conversation? Do I see anybody? You can't be that timid.
I'm happy to start.
Go ahead, Laura.
Then the other one can join in. We had really an amazing discussion with a focus on listening and how we need to learn to maybe sometimes talk a bit less and learn to listen a bit more to the stories that others have and the experiences that others have that we might not be able to make ourselves, just because of the position that we have in societies that are all very different. So besides educating people, we think it's really important to emphasize listening. And Leah actually had a very good suggestion about a radical listening course. So we are all about to Google what this radical listening is. Maybe you should do as well.
Thank you, Laura. And there is this expression, even in the planetary health community, there is one organization, Health in Harmony, who discusses this radical listening. So yeah, it's out there, and we support their method, and we need to scale this up and do as well. But as we know, even though we should do better, women are still a bit better at listening than men usually. That's one of the skills. I don't know if you agree. And it's always great to have also many male supporters here, because one of the things that for us is very important is, and we do have amazing advisors in our organization who if you're a strategic thinker and you want to make a change, you know that you need to also tackle this topic, and it's part of your agenda as well. So I've been encountering so many male support that it's very also good. And so any other suggestions here for us? I see many cameras now. I see Melvin, you would like to speak?
Yeah. Jess from our group will actually represent us. Kindly, Jess, feel free.
Thanks, Melvin. You're throwing me in the deep end there. No, it's such a huge question, and I think our conversation went a bit more focused around sort of practical terms, and Jennifer's question of like, okay, so what is it that I can do to support women in these environments? So we looked at it, I guess, from a sort of two-pronged approach, and looking at women who are in the community who might not have access to education, and then women who are on a path to career and professionalism that need their voices to be heard. So we looked at those two different groups of women, and we talked about awareness and education, especially on a sort of community level, supporting communities, women in communities, to understand planetary health, to create some strong messaging, to use creative interventions, whether it's art or dance or sport or music, to help the understanding of planetary health. And then with strong awareness and funding interest, create pathways for those women. And then on the route for women who are on a route to sort of looking at careers in planetary health, it's about, Jennifer was talking about open source data and supporting research to be published, and looking at ways of sort of enhancing the voice of women's publications in research, and sort of sharing that those publications that are done by women predominantly. I think, those are the sort of the main themes that came up for us. I'm not sure if any of the other ladies would like to fill in any gaps, but that's kind of what we covered. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. That's fantastic. And this translation of knowledge, and we've been thinking about these two groups, right? Because you have to empower. It's the early stage of education. We, in our case at the moment, we're really focusing a little bit on this. How do we give this leadership impulse? But perhaps once you also have more women at the top, it's kind of a cycle, right? We also would like to empower and beginning at the early education level. So that's a very important point. Any other? I'm sure you had all amazing topics, and also we cut some groups, so you probably heard different things. But if you have questions as well, and I see more people, also Sanita, hello, you also participated in our program. If you want to share something as well, because you're in South Africa, please feel free. And
yes, I think Nicole, thank you so much. Very nice to see everyone. Sophie actually had her hand up, Sophie, so I'm going to give you an opportunity to maybe share what our group came up with.
No, go ahead. I think you can sum it up well, and then I can add if there's anything else.
Yeah, so we started talking about really how we can empower more women in what we do in our different capacities. And for me as a lecturer, I thought really communicating to my students that this concept of planetary health exists, and that even though it's this huge concept, they can make a difference within their homes, within their communities, and really communicating to them what it is and how they can really contribute. I think that was something I could do on my side to empower. But then Sophie also made a good point, and she said it's also really about giving up a seat sometimes, giving up a seat at the table. So that shouldn't be really underestimated as a very powerful tool to give other women an opportunity as well. But then our group got larger, and the conversation shifted a bit, very interesting. And we were speaking about, towards the end, really speaking about women and employing a sort of a quota system and the value there. And Jeannie Ray made some very interesting remarks in that regard. So I don't know, Sophie, do you want to add anything?
No, I think it was very well said. I think in the end, our discussion was a bit towards, and I think it reminded me of what we said in the beginning, that it's not, our solution is not to put some women at the system and also again concentrate the power of them, but we want to redistribute, right? And share power. And I think that was a bit the discussion that we had in the end, and recognizing when we self-hold power and when we have to give it up to also give space to others. But we're very well summed up. And yeah, I don't know if anyone else of our group wants to add.
Anyone, and it's really beautiful. And I want to remind Sanita, you're a lawyer, right? So it's also, again, I like to highlight that we have many disciplines in this movement, and it's not only about bringing more medical students, although they're very important, and I'm not discriminating against the most. We have many in our team, but it's very important to have other disciplines in this movement, because it's this connections that we're looking for. And I'm glad that we are creating a space where everybody feels welcome, and independently of age, gender, and discipline. So we have 7 minutes left, and I would like to, if you want to add something or pose a question perhaps, or also from what you heard before, that's the time, because we're really going to end also on time. We have an amazing program in plenary very soon, and I don't want to miss it. So I'm leaving at 3:30 to have this amazing panel today as well. So any questions or comments?
I'd like to make a comment.
Please, James. Yes.
Thank you. Well, after 30 years in public health and worrying about climate for the last few years, it's quite clear that we need women leaders in the community and in the professional ranks. In fact, the more I look at it, the more I think we need women leaders more than we need men, because our makeup, our testosterone, or whatever else. And so in the community here, we've been working with women leaders who do reforestation work. And I'll share a little factoid with you. Apparently in flight simulation training for pilots, and most of the pilots in training in the world are male, the voice that gives the command to execute an emergency maneuver that will save lives, it is more likely that it will be responded to quickly if it is a female voice than if it is a male voice. And that's a split-second difference, and that's very interesting. Why is it that male pilots in training seem to pay more attention to the woman voice that says, dive, dive, and not, and just do it, and not challenge? That's very interesting. Is it because we are socialized that our mothers always look after us, and when they warn you it's something very, whereas your father may do some, your mother is going to, I don't know, but I just share that little tidbit with you.
I love this, James. Thanks for this contribution. And it's so, it sounds like a little thing, but I think it tells a lot. And these things we need to pay more and more attention, because in the end, we're talking about saving lives, right? And it looks like an anecdote, but it's really the difference between life and death. So it's a very important, interesting fact. And I just also, it was interesting to see, I have a colleague that had a sister who wanted to be a pilot in Brazil. And she got very discouraged by her brother, my own friend, very intelligent guy. And I loved when she actually became a pilot, and she, not only she kind of climbed the stairs there, and he was very happy because he was getting discounts on this flights, and then all of a sudden the sister was a hero. So that's also a very cool story. I see in the chat we have people asking about when is the next mentorship, and that's the question. And of course we are now studying how we move forward, because also, as we said, we admitted 23 people, and we're thinking, how do we make this more scalable? How can we do it or not? So we're in discussions, but definitely we're going to have a second round for the next semester. So if you could, I would suggest that I'm also revealing another thing for you. We have a website, but we are creating a new one that's going to be much better. So I'm not going to reveal the address of the new one because it's going to change a little bit. But if you go to the ones that we have at the moment, you can also register there for the newsletter, and we're getting these addresses, and we're going to communicate our new website, probably launched next month. And because what we want to do is to find tools also to make this community easier to be enriched and exchanged. So it's not only the mentorship, it's also, there are other activities we can do. But yes, so we are going to have the second mentorship and the digital academy. We're seeing to see how we can just achieve and have more impact. And so if you know an organization or foundation also who would like to support this work, that's very important, because we want to reach more people. And as you know, we have a very committed team, but we're so small compared to the challenge that we have and the difference that we want to make. So we are now also in touch with sponsors and organizations who can help us. 2 minutes left. It's really your final chance to say something, ask something. Do I see anyone? Yes, please, Janie.
Jeannie, hi. Yeah, I'd just like to say that we have to have great care not to keep arguing why women should be heard, why we can make it better. We should have gender equality, full stop. So it's a matter of right. That's why. that will make it better is the value add.
Exactly. Thank you so much. And I like this is a good ending here. And I think it's the good news is that we are also, I think it's much more, we're beyond the why and we want to know how. So we are, the mentorship for us now was the first how that we could come up with. And I'm happy that we could touch a few lives. And specifically, you saw we traveled from Argentina to Australia, Malaysia, South Africa, Mexico, India. And that's the beauty. I'm so thankful for your time, for your commitment. I hope you enjoy the Planetary Health Week. It's not only every day is Planetary Health Day, like Earth Day, but it's nice to concentrate also having this week to meet with this community. And I'm so proud that Brazil, even if virtually, is hosting that with the University of São Paulo. I'm also the co-founder of the Planetary Health Research Group at the University of São Paulo, and Brazil needs this so much at the moment, and with our leaders at the moment, they're not the ones that perhaps will save the planet. So help us to spread the message. Follow us on social media, tweet about this if you found something interesting, because we have a very fast growing community and it's just a force for good. So with that, thank you so much. And I'll see you in plenary, and we'll be in touch virtually. Bye-bye, everyone.